Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And oh my goodness, are you in for a treat today? As I'm bringing you another special guest, someone I've been following for many, many years, I've admired, and that is I'm getting to talk with Jill Konrath. Jill is the author of multiple books. Her latest book, Pivotal Moments, I'm holding this book up right now, so if you're listening, you can't see it. You'll have to go on the YouTube and check it out. And then also a book that I picked up when I first joined the Armstrong Company I'm holding up. It's called Selling to Big Companies 20 years ago, Jill. And so you also have an incredible blog called What's Really Possible. It's so good to have you on the show. How you doing, Jill?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's fun
I
to be here.
also
I'm glad to be able to talk with you about this.
Well, I so glad you came on. I also read here that you've got like, I don't know, over a quarter million LinkedIn followers as well. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, and you like, there's just so much we could talk about. I like to start the show by just reflecting on like when I met my guests or when they came into my path. We have not met until today.
Yes.
But I first learned about you in 2006. My vice president of sales at the time, a guy named Dave Nelson, he recommended this book to me. It's called Selling to Big Companies. 2006. It's hard to believe that. And then I started following you, and I just loved everything. It was very strategic, forward thinking, all of that. Man, 20 years ago, you wrote that book, and here you are today. Do you remember, like, let's just go back 2006. Do you remember
Yes.
when you wrote that book and what was that like when you published that book?
Well, yeah, I do remember writing that book. I'd gotten a contract to write the book. I had a proposal and submitted it, and I submitted it actually to a couple publishers, and they were all interested because once they know they have competition
Yeah.
from other publishers, then they want you better. So I got a book contract right away, and I threw myself in. I booked out the next 3 months to write the
Mm,
book. I mean,
yeah.
I just stopped everything that I was doing and said, I'm going to write the book. And I outlined it at first and, put in all the stuff I was thinking about it because I think it helps to follow an outline as
Mm,
opposed to just flowing through.
yeah.
But then when I was finally done with the outline, I remember sitting down at my computer, ready to write. I mean, I was so excited. This was the first day I had devoted to putting my,
Yeah.
fingertips on the keyboards and
Yeah.
actually writing. And I went, oh my God, I forgot. I had read this book called Your Highest Goal.
Mm,
And it said, before you start any project,
mm,
identify what is your highest goal in doing
yeah.
this project. And
Yeah.
so I said, okay, Jill, what's your highest goal in writing this
Mm,
book? And I immediately went to help small businesses learn how they can win contracts with bigger companies.
mm,
And a voice in my head screamed at me in a
mm,
very strong voice, and it said, no, it's not. This is why I thought I was writing the book to help small and medium sized companies win bigger contracts. And the
mm.
voice said, your role, your highest goal is to make them feel that it's possible.
Ooh.
That's a whole different book because most of the books that were coming out from sales experts at that time
Mm,
were kind of the, aren't I great? And they were pounding their chests, and I've never been under quota and just follow my tactics. So I literally had to, when I wrote the book, I started with my business failure because
mm,
a few years before that, my own business had crashed because of the Y2K recession. And I had been booked out for 9 months with my clients, and both of them came under pressure from Wall Street. And they were told, thou shalt deliver better earnings. And so
mm,
if you're a consultant on the outside, you're cut. So 9 months later, they still hadn't come back, and I realized I have to figure this out again.
mm,
So that's when I threw myself into figuring out what actually worked in
mm,
today's world. But the reality is, my book starts out with my failure, and I thought I was
mm.
never going to have any clients again. And I'm going to share with you what I've learned.
I
And
love that.
I think that's kind of what's behind the book. For
Mm,
example, people were talking about I leave voicemails, nobody gets back to me. I
hmm.
sent emails,
Yes.
nobody gets back to me. And I remember for my own business trying to craft the perfect message and
Yeah.
thinking I got it right. And then I I called myself up and left a message on my, and then I listened to me and I went, oh my God, I delete myself.
That's why.
I
That's
delete
why.
myself. Yeah.
Oh, I love
You
that.
know, and so that changed. I mean, I included that stuff in the book,
Yeah.
the learning process, so people
Yeah.
didn't, realize it was possible to
Yeah.
do this, but you had to change what you did and you had to
Mm.
experiment.
I love that. I love that because I do remember at that time, and I want to get into your new book, but I do
Yeah.
remember at that time thinking, man, why don't people call me back? And then fast forward, I realize how busy I am. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't have that need, or if there's not value there, it's going to be hard for me to get back with them. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I just love that. Okay, let's fast forward. Here you are. You
Yeah.
just put out a new book. You just wrote and published a new book. I do want to talk about this book here. It's called Pivotal Moments, the Springboard to New Possibilities. There's that word again, possibilities. And this book really caught my attention. That book it's interesting how different books catch your attention in different seasons of life. So
Mm-hmm.
that I was new into sales at that time. That was a big deal. But this one here, I've made a lot. I think I pivoted quite a bit. I mean, the pandemic, I pivoted to doing a podcast. I remember pivoting in a lot of different moments, but I want to talk about this. First of all, how long have you been thinking about writing this book, or did it just come to you? And talk about that process, because I think there's people listening on the show. They've got their journals out, they've got their
Yeah.
pens out. They're I'm going to learn over this next 30 minutes what Jill thinks about these pivotal moments, because we all have them. So talk about that beginning process and what you were thinking there.
I was going to start writing a fiction book at that point. And
Okay.
I was excited because I've only written fiction on the side for, my kids and stuff, grandkids. But I was going to write a fun fiction book, and it was about sales, and that was the earlier book. But this one was going to be about grandmas.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now
I like
I'm a
that.
grandma. So I was
Okay.
going to write a
Do
fiction book
your
about
grandchildren
grandmas.
call you grandma?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
No, they actually don't call me grandma. They call me Giga.
Gig, I
Because
love that. My wife's name
yeah,
is
that was my
Dana.
nickname growing up.
Oh, I love that. I love that. My
Yeah.
wife's name is Dana, and my grandkids call her Dandy.
Dandy, that's cute.
So anyway,
I'm Giga because when I was a baby, I used to go gig 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 ga, ga. And so
I
my
love that.
whole family started calling me
I love
Giga.
that. That's so
So
good.
so anyway, I was going to write this book about grandmas and what they could do in the world today to create a better world, and it would
Yeah.
be a fiction story. And I was mapping it out, and I was excited, and I was getting up in the middle of the night with a pen that I have that glows in the dark so you can see what you're writing. Isn't that
Ooh,
funny? I
I
mean, the
don't have
book
one
was
of
taking
those.
over me. And then, as I share in pivotal moments, I woke up in the middle of the night and a voice said to me, this is only two times in my life I've had a voice speak to me directly.
Yep.
And it said, I come first. I had no idea. And then it said pivotal moments. And I intuitively understood that I could write about pivotal moments because I've made a lot of them. A lot of people are going through some challenging times right
Yeah.
now. And if I could help people with my experience, that this was the book I needed to write first. The other one would take me too long to write because it was all new and I didn't do fiction really.
Yeah.
So I threw myself in. I pushed everything aside and I started writing.
Well, let's talk about the Jill Konrath story. Because your story, you've had a lot of pivotal moments. So now today you can write about these pivotal moments
Yeah, I know.
and what
Uh-huh.
it was like. I will tell
Uh-huh.
you, and I know you're probably going to talk about this as well, but I remember I followed you. Like as soon as I read your book, I started following your newsletter, and then years later, you stopped your newsletter. It was time
Hmm.
you had to take a pause in your life, and I
Hmm.
remember thinking, "Oh man, I'm not going to get to read Jill's newsletter and what's going on in her life." And it just
Yeah.
kind of went quiet
Hmm.
until then. So talk a little bit about your story and some of the pivotal moments that you shared in the book as well.
Growing up when I did, women were slotted into certain positions. And let me just say, I'm 74 years old right now, so that
Hmm.
it tells you that I went the era I grew up in, okay?
Yeah.
And women could be nurses, but
Hmm.
I didn't like blood. So that was out. It could be social workers, but I wasn't nice enough.
Okay.
So that was out. It could be a secretary,
Hmm.
but I don't take orders very well. Or it could be a teacher. So I defaulted into being a teacher because I figured that would give me the most, things to work with. So I
Yeah.
became a teacher, taught for 4 years, thought I was going to die. It was like so the wrong job for me. And I was in a good high school with really good kids, but there was something about having a curriculum that I had to follow all the time
Hmm.
constrained me.
Yeah.
It's like, and I remember saying to the department head, I've got some ideas on how to do this. No, Jill, you can't make them now. You can do it in the summer if you want, and you have to, apply to do a project so you can get paid for it. And I'm saying, but I could make my class tomorrow better.
Hmm.
And no, you can't do it. We do curriculum updates in the summer if we, get paid for them. I got to the point of feeling dread in going to work, just absolute total dread, and couldn't sleep at night because it was the wrong job for me at that point in my life. And my husband at that time wanted me to stay in teaching because he was a teacher.
Hmm.
And I would ruin the marriage if I left teaching. Yeah. So I had a lot of pressure to stay in there. But I mean, finally, I literally got so sick because it was the wrong job that
Yeah.
I had to leave. And Arthur Brooks has a book out. He's a really smart dude. Teaches at Harvard, I think. And he talks about 75%, when you're considering what you do, 75% of your decisions should be excitement.
Hmm.
25% fear, like, oh God, am I really capable of doing it?
Hmm.
And 0% should be deadness, like I'd die if I had to do that again. But that's true. And that's how if I had to get another teaching job, I'd die. Anyway, it did teach me some things,
Hmm.
that I've used in my life because, having done a lot of sales training workshops and stuff. So I tried to get a job and nobody would hire me. And finally, a friend's dad heard I was looking and he said, well, yeah, tell Jill to come in. She'd make a wonderful bank teller. And I'm thinking, bank teller? He knows me. She'd make a great bank teller because she's got a wonderful smile, And it's like he sees me as a smile. I got a brain. I want to do
Yeah.
something with myself.
Hmm.
So that moment in time, pivotal moment for me, I said, okay, if nobody will hire me for a job that is of interest to me, I guess I'll create one.
Hmm.
And I started researching. I spent a lot of time in the library
Mm-hmm.
looking for trends and that somebody with my limited capabilities could do. But I came up with a really good idea. And for the first time ever, corporations were having trouble relocating their executives because their wives now had jobs that they cared about and would be disruptive to the family, with what baseball, where's the best baseball team? Where can we get, Susie flute lessons? All this stuff. So disruptive. And then Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I lived, had the fifth or sixth largest corporate headquarters in the US. So I went, oh my God, this is an issue in my backyard. I think I'm capable of putting together a company that be a services company, not a real estate company, a services company to help families in transition get settled quickly. And I roped in a few friends. We went to a SCORE executive,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked through it. And I had studied how to write a business plan too, because I didn't know how to do that. So I studied that, and he looked through it. And he said, "This is really a good idea, Jill. But somebody's got to sell it. Which one of you three is going to be doing the selling?" And I looked at him, and I went, "I thought you said this was a good idea." And he said, "It is, Jill, but somebody has to sell it."
Ah.
Oh, yes. And the only salespeople I knew at that time were Mary Kay cosmetic people or
Yeah.
Tupperware people that, went into people's house with little parties. And that wasn't me either.
Yeah.
So anyway, my friends weren't interested at all. It was I was the one driving it. So it was clear that I had to get into sales. And that's how I got my start in sales. Got a job at Xerox because they were being forced by the government to hire people like me, women and minorities, in order to keep government contracts. So
I knew we were connected because I'm in relocation. I've been in relocation for 30 years, and now you're talking my language here.
Yeah.
There is so much here. I wrote a book several years ago called Find Your Lane.
Oh,
Change your GPS and change your career.
oh, it's a
And
good title.
yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. And there's so many different ways to do things. You just got to find what works for you.
Yeah.
And when I think about finding your lane, it's about finding your calling, your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was that moment like, okay, you created this role, you're in sales now. When was that moment that you found your lane in sales? Like you said, hey, you know what? I can do this.
Actually, it started fairly quickly in sales.
Hmm.
That first of all, I loved it because I was out meeting interesting, different people all the time, and I was
Oh,
learning about the world. I felt like a kid in a candy store, and I could go into Anderson Windows that makes the big windows and work in their factory, and then I could go over walk across the street to go to a bank, and then I could do this. I mean, I was like, oh, I'm learning so much. The world just opened up to me.
wow. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, having been in a classroom for 4 years,
Yeah, right.
or there were no windows in my classroom either. But the fact that I was being exposed to the greater world and what was
Mhm.
out there was so
Mhm.
exciting to me. And Xerox did have a training program, but I, again, come from teaching. And so I was always experimenting with what
Mhm.
could work better. So, yeah, it was really fun because it was an experiment. So that got me going. It was probably the reason I never failed because everything I did was an experiment. I'm going to try it this way. I'm going to try it that way. Oh, that didn't work. What could I do differently? So it was pretty fun. And then as soon as I figured out something, and
Mhm.
when I say figured out, I mean, like say we had a competitor, and back in the day it might have been seven
Mhm.
copiers, and they had a new model out, and we were losing to it. And as soon as I mean, it's like, oh, a new challenger. What can we do, and how can I figure out a way to have them choose my product over the other one? And I'd work on it. And so I'd be with that clients and I'd try different things. And when I finally figured out what worked, I would go to my branch office and I'd say, I know how to beat the seven model. I'd like to put on a class for all my colleagues so they
Mhm.
can get up to speed on what is effective in
Mhm.
working with this. So what I was doing was bringing my teaching in to deal with a new challenge that people were facing. And that kind of became a through line
Mhm.
of everything I did with my books and everything and what I spoke about. And, everything I did is like, how can I figure this out and do it?
Little did you know, you went from teaching to teaching. You went from teaching in the classroom to teaching in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And I just love all of that. I want to jump into this book here, and I'm holding this
Mhm.
book up here, and I love the cover. I love everything about it. Pivotal moments, and what I really enjoyed and what really got my attention was your very first chapter, because I've thought about this, and I know many people have thought about this. I've heard Oprah Winfrey talk about this, and that is you got to start with, what do you really want? Talk about that for, why did you start off with that, number one, in your book? I just thought that was genius. And talk about, I don't know, for those people that are listening and they're like, I don't know
I
what I
don't,
really want.
yeah. Let me just say, I don't know what I'm doing next either, okay? And I really don't. I'm on
Yeah.
an adventure, and I prefer to call things that I'm doing new as an adventure because you can't possibly know where you're going at the
Yeah.
beginning, and you have to take steps,
Mm.
and I did teach at Xerox. That I broke off and worked with a small sales training company, and I discovered, oh, sales training company does the same thing all the time. So
Mm.
I'm back in the place that I didn't want to be. But what I did discover after a wonderful conversation I recently wrote about on my blog is the man who changed everything to me in a 30-second comment. And
Mm.
literally, he was a friend of a friend. I'm outside. He knew I, joined this training company. He said, "How is it going for you, Jill?" And I said, I told him I was so depressed it wasn't working out, and I
Oh.
thought I was going to die because as soon as I learned something, I got bored. And he literally said to me, "Jill, that is your strength,
Mm.
that I can quickly pick things up. Companies need people who can quickly pick things up and do something with what they've learned.
Mm.
And I went back and thought about it. And a few months later, I introduced a whole new Jill to the market.
Mm.
I didn't do training, I did product launch.
Mm.
Because product launch was always new. The company we're launching this big product. We're really excited, but what I saw in all the clients that I work with, they throw this new product over the wall to the marketing would throw it over the wall to the sales force, and they'd say, "Go get them." And then pretty soon the sales force would come back and they'd say, if it only had these capabilities, we could sell it. Or if it was
Mm.
only at this point, we could sell it. I mean, there was excuses. And
Mm.
so they brought me in to go through all the excuses in my brain to figure out, to play with it, to figure out the best way to go forward to jumpstart sales on new products. And then I was in my glory. But it took me
Mm.
iterations to figure out what it was that I really loved to do. I mean, I think
Mm.
that's so people don't know what to do. I think the word what pulls you in, what grasps you in and shakes you up and says, come, more. I love this. And we don't
Mm.
recognize that. We think that's not important. I think it's crucial.
It reminds me of that. I heard a quote one time. I think it was Simon Sinek that said it takes a long time to be an overnight success. So sometimes it just takes you a while. It's like building relationships. It's like just finding things that like really move you. It
Yep.
just sometimes takes a while. I began my journey really at 37. Like I was in operations for 10 years and it just
Yeah.
didn't move me. And then I moved over to sales and marketing, and all of a sudden I was just like, wow. Now I had to go through that. I had to go through that 10 years of
Yeah.
operations to learn the business.
Uh-huh.
And but so that prepared me. Little did I know I was preparing, but you just keep on trying things, right?
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah.
Talk about, I don't know, talk about some of the things in your book around pivotal moments that, I don't know, people might have, I don't know, maybe something that you didn't realize it were going to move people, or maybe a couple of pivotal moments for you that, that you are proud that you shared.
You asked about my book and everything. I guess, I never planned to write books. That wasn't
Me too.
it wasn't on my list of things I wanted to do before I die or anything. And it was Y2K. Like I said, my business collapsed, and I thought I was over the hill. That there was no future for me. I hadn't carried the bag for like a sales bag, for a while. And what was I going to do? I mean, I was really kind of depressed, when these clients said they'd come back and they didn't come back, and
Mm.
I wondered if I would ever work again. And when I detached myself from the exact problem, I went, there are so many other people out there struggling with this issue.
Mm.
I need to dig in and figure it out. And so I did. And like I said, I spent a lot of time experimenting. First, experimenting to get me back to work, but second, then, okay, if I pull Jill out of it, what is the part that works for everybody else? How can I share other things with
Mm.
people? And so that was the impetus for me. And so what I've done over the years is every book is an answer to a problem that
Mm.
people face. My second book was snap selling. It happened because Bob, who was my client, and done a big bunch of work for him at Minnesota Life Insurance Agency here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I just done a project with him. He said, Jill, get back to me in 2 weeks. We got to get going on this. I said, okay. 2 weeks later, I ping him nothing. I ping him again a few days later, nothing. I mean, it was like, did I imagine that he
Mm.
said, call me back and we'll get going on another project? And finally, after several months, I finally sent him an apology letter and said, Bill, I have no idea what I did
Mm.
to offend you, but please accept my apologies.
Mm.
Heard back from him, and I meant it because it had to be something I did. I heard back from him in 30 minutes. He said, oh no, Jill, it's nothing about you. I have so much to do on my desk. I just can't possibly get everything done. I'm just swamped. And I went, oh, that's another problem people are facing. This is going to be fun.
Mm.
So I said, okay. And then I literally went to work on how do you deal with today's crazy busy buyers.
Mm.
And that was the genesis of snap selling. It was a problem. And see, I like to find challenges that
Mm,
need solving. That's
mm,
when I do best, is
mm,
when I got a challenge. And so that came out and that did really, really well because everybody was having trouble with getting indoors, talking to people. And then my third book came because people were asking me about how to get up to speed fast in a new position. I was
mm.
getting questions and I thought, shoot, I'm a get up to speed fast expert because I'm always tackling new projects. I might work with Medtronic one day on heart valves, United Healthcare on insurance, 3M on tape, new tape. I'm an expert at getting up to speed. So I wrote, if I was a new salesperson, what would I do, and how? What are the different things I could do to put together, help get up to speed fast? And that was agile selling, get up to speed fast.
Mm.
And then the salespeople started complaining about they didn't have enough time too. And so next thing I know, I'm writing a book about, finding more time in your own schedule. And I used myself as a guinea pig and and wrote about, experimented with different techniques and wrote about what I'd learned about how I could do more in less time without feeling awful.
Pivotal moments,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are around you saw a need. You saw an
Yeah.
area where you could serve people.
Yes.
I call that giving hope, helping other people every day.
Mhm.
And I think I love the message around that because people right now that are listening, I know they're writing down, all they got to do is find ways to help people and something
That
will
give
come
you
from that.
joy, that are fun to you.
Yep.
They're gotta have a kind of an excitement factor. Even
I
in
love that.
volunteer work, I mean, there's a lot of volunteer work that you can do that can help you hone in on that kind of stuff. And I know when like my kids were little, I'd go up and I'd go on field trips and do other things that needed, be there for gym or something. But what really got me is my daughter got in a program called Destination Imagination, Odyssey of the Mind,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
about creative problem solving for kids. And so
Yeah.
she was in the program one year and then she came home the next year and sobbed and threw herself on the couch and said, Mom, I'm going to die. Literally. What's wrong, honey? I mean, she's in sixth grade at the time. I'm going to die. The school can't afford to do the Odyssey of the Mind program this year. And if I can't do it, I'm going to die. And then she looks at me and says, but they said if a parent would be willing to do it, they'd pay, they couldn't pay for the coach. They would pay for the registration, which is like
Mm.
$135 or something. Would you do it? And she's sobbing. So next thing you know, I'm coaching an Odyssey of the Mind team of 7 girls. We met from
Ah,
September till March. We did it
yeah.
again till she graduated from high school. We were state champions one year. I spent hours, but it was all about how can we create something. And I couldn't give the girls any ideas. I could only pull ideas out of
Mm.
them. It was the most exciting program to be involved with for somebody
Mm.
like me who liked new things. But that
Mm.
that is again an indicator of where I would be successful in what I would do in my life. It was a challenge.
I'm glad you brought up the volunteering as well, because I feel like that's really been I'll use the word fulfillment. It's given me great
Hmm.
energy
Hmm.
in my role. I
Yeah.
became part of a couple of industry associations, and later became the president of one of the largest SHRM chapters in the country. And today I get to serve the state and
Hmm.
national level, and it's brought up so much joy from
Yes.
just the connections,
Yeah.
the friendships,
Hmm.
the people that challenge you, being able to see what good looks like, what
Hmm.
consistent looks like. It's really helped shape my entire journey. And so volunteering is a huge
Oh, it's
way that,
huge.
right?
It's huge. Yeah. I mean, I grew so much from doing that
Yeah.
volunteer work. I grew, and it gave me joy to see the kids
Yeah.
develop their own confidence in themselves and what they could create and do on their own. And
I love it. I love it. I don't want to give away your book, but I do want to ask you about this real quick. And that is for those that are listening, you have a section around designing your plan. You've got to
yeah.
design. You've got to design it. You talked about designing your books, creating that framework. I love that because I've wrote books and I'm like, oh man, I remember going through that process. Talk just for those who are listening and they're like, you know what? I'm looking for that. I'm looking for what you're talking about. I'm looking for that
Hmm.
energy. I'm looking for that, find my lane.
Yeah.
What's, I don't know, a couple of tips you might give to the listeners on designing their plan?
Take a look at what you like to do first. You love to do,
Mm,
what gives you energy.
Yeah.
if you want to do that, that's really crucial. One of the things I've had to do numerous times is as I've changed my plans, is
Mm-hmm.
I've had to create an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knowing full well that I was stepping into something new and I didn't know exactly where it was going. And I might make some missteps along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And if I called it an adventure, it was easier to
Mm-hmm.
handle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just share one that, that kind of the biggest one that hit me in the last few years. My husband passed away.
Yep.
And I shut down writing for a while.
Yep.
If you were following me, I just, there was nothing there. And then I decided that my house, which was out in a far suburb, was not conducive to living. Even though it was a house I'd raised the kids in and everything, it was out too far and nobody wanted to see me. And, this is a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
But I had to change things up, and I decided to move downtown. What you see in the background is what I see when I look out my window. It's
I love it.
downtown Minneapolis, across the river from the Mississippi. The Mississippi River flows right through Minneapolis, and so it's across the river. But I decided that I needed to move downtown into a high rise
Yeah.
with somebody that guarded the door, because as a single woman, made me nervous that people could get in, and I needed community. So I told my kids, and they said, "Oh, Mom, don't leave the house. All your memories are there."
Oh.
And I said, "No, guys, my memories are in here. They're in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's not at the house. I won't forget it,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to move where there's life again. And
Mm.
this house isn't life." And
Yeah.
they said, "Well, why don't you just rent a place downtown?" And I said, "No, because if I rent a place, I won't throw myself in wholeheartedly. I'll always be going, is this
Mm.
good? Hmm.
Mm.
Do I like this? And so I bought a place and I threw myself in wholeheartedly. I'm a member of a wonderful community in this building.
Mm.
People talk to each other. They get together, have TGI Fridays. They have
Mm-hmm.
speakers come in. And I mean, I could have been out in the far burbs and nobody'd be
Mm.
with me, and I would be dying inside. I mean, that's one example. It's kind of different than the others, but
I love that. I love that. Sometimes you got to change it up. I also wrote down
yeah,
a couple things here. I wrote
yeah,
down sometimes you got to hit the pause button,
yeah,
and
hmm
it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay to pause. I
hmm
was thinking about that's when you stopped your newsletter when your husband had passed,
yeah.
and I
I just
remember
couldn't write anymore.
and you wrote, you said, "Hey, my husband has passed. I'm going to stop." And I
Hmm
remember that feeling. I was like, I had just this feeling of, oh no, that's terrible. And and then, and then you found another lane. You
I had to
pivoted.
find something different. Yeah,
You pivoted, and then you wrote about those
yeah,
pivotal moments. I know it's going to help a lot of people. The second thing is, I have a friend also who lives in Minneapolis. He's a speaker, and he's also an author, but he talks a lot about renters versus owners.
Oh, really? Who
And
is
I
that
was
speaker?
Yeah, his name is Greg
Oh,
Hawks.
I
Greg
don't know.
Hawks. And
Yeah.
he is fantastic. And he, when you said that, I thought about that. I
hmm
remember when I started my job at Armstrong, I said,
hmm
I can't just put one foot in and one foot out. I got to
Right.
go all in.
All
I got
in.
to own it. And
Yep.
that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You got to own it. And you can't be tepid about your doing. So you have to throw yourself in. It's okay if you don't like it after a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to me, the other thing too that I've taken as a mental thing, and it's been something I've believed in for a long time. I have had no failures in my life. None. I have had a number of valuable learning experiences. But if I say I'm afraid to fail, no, I don't fail, but I do have valuable learning experiences. I
Oh.
mean, my last recent newsletter talked about when I was at Xerox and I gave a demo and we had to memorize it. And Mr. Prospect, for years, Xerox designed copiers to satisfy the needs and requirements of our customers. Our experience shows us that regardless of specific needs, I had the whole thing. And then, Mr. Customer, what is your biggest thing? Thank you, Mr. Customer. Let's take a look at. Anyway, at the end, no, it was Mr. Prospect. At the end, he says to me, I said, "Do you have any questions?" And he said, "No, Jill, but my name is not Mr. Prospect." I thought I was going to die because the whole demonstration, I called this guy Mr. Prospect.
That is,
I wanted to crawl on the floor and crawl under something, but I had to say to myself, "No, Jill, this is a valuable learning
I love
experience.
that.
You haven't failed. You've learned."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so good. I tell people all the time, it's like you have to go through these failure
yeah,
moments, right?
yeah,
I call them the valley. You have to go
yeah,
through the valley
yeah.
to get to the top.
Mhm.
And what happens when you're in the valley, you have to look at them as what you just said, they're learning moments.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to have grace for
yes,
yourself.
have grace. But when you're going
Otherwise,
through it, it's like the
oh,
worst thing ever.
oh, yes,
That is so good. I appreciate you sharing that because there are people listening right now that have probably gone through or going through failure right now.
yeah,
And they needed that. They're like, oh, I just needed that at this moment.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that. So write it down. It's a valuable learning moment, a VLM.
yeah.
So
Makes a
good.
big difference. Makes
Pivotal.
a big difference to have that mentality to achieve anything you want in your life.
Call that, yeah, having perspective, having that
Yeah,
growth mindset.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. I'm going to hold it up, this book up again. It's Pivotal
Mhm.
Moments. You can pick up your copy. I'll put the link in the show notes. The Springboard to New Possibilities.
Yeah.
And you're real quick on your blog, and you have What's Really Possible. What's the website for that?
What's really possible.com. There's
Boom.
no apostrophe in what's,
Isn't that great? I love that. Just real quick, are you still writing weekly,
Yeah,
monthly? Okay.
weekly now. I'm
Okay.
ready about
Good.
pivotal moments. I've got some
Good.
other people pivotal moments to share. And
And
by the way, I
yes.
bought that domain name
Yes.
in 2007. I had
Wow.
no idea what I'd use it for, but for some reason in 2007, I bought What's Really
How
Possible.
about that?
Isn't
How
that
about
cool?
that? And here you are. And
Yeah.
by the way, I want everybody listening, I want you to go out there. I want you to subscribe to Jill's blog and you'll get our newsletter and you'll be able to keep up with what's really possible. And
Yes.
you will absolutely love it. I am sure of that. Hey, I want to jump over here to it's time to accelerate for kind of the last part of the show. I wanted to ask you kind of some fun questions. I feel like you're a continuous learner. Well,
Yeah.
what's something you still want to learn?
I have not dabbled with AI, ChatGPT, or now Claude. And I haven't because I've had to keep all that learning away as I'm writing the
Hmm.
book and I had to rewrite my website. It was like too much for my poor little brain to play with it
Yeah.
because I was playing with other ideas and I had to protect the limited amount of brain space I have. So now that the book is out and my website is up to date and has been refreshed to be where I'm going today, yeah, I really want to get into
Mm-hmm.
using some of that.
I like that. And I published all my books before kind of AI, really chat GPT and all
Mhm.
that. And I'm so glad in my last book, I talk about great leaders are grateful leaders. What are you grateful for?
Oh man, a lot. I mean, I have a good life. I'm
Hmm.
happy. I'm glad I moved downtown. I'm glad that I can make a positive impact on people's lives.
Hmm.
And that's kind of my driving force. And people say, Jill, why don't you retire? It's like, retire. Why would I want to do that when I'm not done helping and sharing what I've learned to help other people in their journey? I mean, to me,
Hmm.
that's it's very satisfying to have a purpose.
Hmm.
It's very gratifying. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm grateful for you coming on the show today, Jill.
Yeah.
This has been
Thank you.
so much fun.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
here's my final question. I've asked this to all my guests.
Oh dear.
Jill, 10 years older, is around the corner. She's
Hmm.
knocking at your door, and you're going to answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
Job well done.
Ooh. And you're continuing, like you said, now you're
Yeah.
trying to continue
Hmm.
to give it back. Somebody shared one time, we learn, we earn, and return. And I like that. I was like, hey, you're
Hmm.
learning, you're
Hmm.
earning, you're returning, you're all, and then you're still learning. It's almost like
Yeah.
a continuous cycle.
Hmm.
Learn, earn, and return. Yeah, I want to earn it. But this has been so much fun. I appreciate you for coming on to the show today and just sharing your wisdom. Okay, so I know that you've got many LinkedIn followers. What's the best way if somebody heard this show today, they watched the show, they heard it, they're like, oh my goodness, I want to follow Jill, I want to connect with Jill, I want to learn from Jill. What's the best way for people to maybe connect or follow you?
Well, if people want to reach me directly for a conversation, they really should go to my website or just
Okay.
write to Jill at what'sreallypossible.com.
And I will,
Yeah,
and I'll put that in the show notes so you can just click
yeah.
and just reach out and just say,
Yeah.
Jill, I heard you on Life in the Leadership
Mhm.
Lane. Here's a couple of things that you shared and it really impacted me. And that
Cool.
makes the connection so much richer, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep,
Oh
it
my
does.
goodness. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
And the other thing I'd like to say is my newsletter goes out on both my website. I mean, if you sign up on my website, or you can get it via LinkedIn.
I love
Yeah.
this. Pivotal
Yeah.
moments. I'm telling you, I read the book. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, but she's also got some of her guests that or that have talked about pivotal moments in the back of the book that I think is really good. And she's also sharing those in her blog.
Mhm.
I just saw one recently. So kudos to you. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
You are an inspiration to me, and I'm so grateful for you and everything you've done just in my journey. And I'm going
Thank
to be,
you.
by the way, I'm going to be purchasing some of these copies of books and sharing these with friends of mine as well. And so I'm just so
Thanks.
grateful. Thank you, Jill.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, I can't wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.